Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All good? So just a couple of quick items before I turn it to Tobias. As you know, we didn't have a press conference last year, so we caught some flack for that. But we try not to waste your time, right? So unless we have something worthwhile to tell you, we really don't want to pull you in and show you the same old thing. Now, having just said that, some of these slides, if you were at Paris, will be the same thing you've seen before. But we've got some other exciting news this year. But I have to start by also telling you that I can't answer any questions on Boeing, okay? The JV that's coming up. We have our marching orders, they're pretty straightforward. Conduct business as usual, right? Assume that nothing's gonna happen. And if it does, great, everybody's hoping for the end of the year, but as it stands right now, we don't really know. Okay, the antitrust part of it still needs to be worked out. But again, no questions on Boeing, please. First up, a couple of quick items. If you come by our booth, you'll see that we're celebrating our 40th and 50th years. 40 in the US, in the regional market, and 50 in Brazil. We've got some nice signage at the booth, which will display that. But we're proud of our heritage. You know, the Brasilia, the Bandeirante, the ERJs, 3 different models, then the E-Jets, and now the E2s. We've been a big part of the regional market from the beginning, and some say we have the airplanes that have been the backbone of the market, during the last 40 years. So we're proud of that. Also, another important item, we're going to have the Tech Lion, which is, if you were at Paris, you saw it, the 195E2 with the staggered first class seats. It's going to be making the rounds, demo tour of the US, starting on the 3rd and ending on the 15th. It will be in Las Vegas from the 9th through the 11th, so you're invited to come out in Las Vegas, or we'll have a media day in Fort Lauderdale on the 15th. There will be a special surprise for the media that day. I can't tell you what it is, but the ladies that coordinate this, they always pull together something pretty cool, and it'll be exciting if you want to come out for that. So please feel free on any of those 2 times. Marissa, you gotta drag your boys out from St. George to Las Vegas. It's not that long of a haul, okay?
I'll get them there.
All right, and very quickly, the market. Tobias will be a little more specific on, how many airplanes we've delivered, things like that. But as I see it, the market is still robust. Lots of opportunities for the 175. It's our bread and butter airplane. It has been for a few years. We have, as of a couple days ago, 1,037 Embraer aircraft flying around every day of the week, which is a huge accomplishment, I think, also. Of those 1,037, 687 are E-Jets, and exactly 350 are ERJs. But it still looks good. I read things in the press. I think some of you saw recently that this famous indicator that a recession is coming is the 2-year and 10-year treasuries. When the yields flip-flop, it means it's coming. And it hasn't been wrong in 50 years. Well, a couple weeks ago that happened. So it doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow, but that worries me a little bit. But I don't see any signs of anything happening soon. So still optimistic about sales in North America. Obviously the 175E2 doesn't meet scope here, so you shouldn't expect to see anything with that airplane, I don't think. There are a few airlines that don't have scope restrictions, but again, for the most part, everybody's following scope, and that, along with the MRJ90, doesn't meet scope. So 190, 195E2, still working hard with the sales team to place those aircraft in North America, but most of the opportunities right now are still 175, so we'll continue to build that airplane going forward. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tobias, and he'll get a little more specific.
Thank you, Charlie. Good afternoon, everyone. So, the sequence I'm going to cover here, the talks are Embraer customer base and an update on our market forecast for the segment we cover from up to 150 seats, our presence in North America, and an update on the E-Jets E2 program. So, we'll start with this chart that shows our order book for the E-Jets. As of the official number for the second quarter of this year is 1,890 units firm, and that includes the current generation and also the E-Jets E2. As of deliveries, more than 1,500 airplanes delivered, and if we add on top of the firm orders the options we have for the E-Jets, we have a total commitment of in excess of 2,300 units. So we are very, very proud with the commercial performance of this family, E-Jets family of aircraft, since not many programs in commercial aviation has delivered in excess of 1,500 units. So it's a very, very successful program for us. And in terms of backlog, 360 units plus backlog for the E-Jets, including E1s and E2s. So it's another chart that we are very proud to show, is a footprint of our current customer base. We have here ERJs, the 50-seater, and the E-Jets. So if you compare this chart with the one we had at the time we were delivering ERJs, the 50-seater, there is a much more balanced distribution today. There's a global presence for the, including the two families of airplanes. So we have presence. We have the airplanes in operation for more than 120 customers in 70 countries and more than 1,900 units in operation in both families. We have seen recently more movement and more. You see here more airlines, small airlines, mainly in Africa, as part of our customer base. Last year we had 40 placements of used aircraft to 11 airlines, and 5 of them were new airlines that were added to our customer base list. And this year, we have had 20 placements to 11 airlines like Air Cairo in Egypt, Great Dane in Denmark, and also Amazonas in Bolivia. So, in average, about every 10 seconds, there is an Embraer manufactured airplane that takes off somewhere in the world, carrying 145 million passengers per year. And so Embraer is the leader in the up to 150 seat market. Embraer has today, in terms of deliveries, 29% of the deliveries on Bombardier 24, Airbus, ATR, and Boeing, and other airplanes for other manufacturers for airplanes for up to 150 seats. So we are the leader in this segment of up to 150. Our predicted deliveries for the next 20 years: 10,550 units, 2,320 being turboprops, and 8,230 jets on the segments from up to 150 seats. We see the turboprops, the center of gravity is more in Asia, and on the 75 size of an airplane, for the 175 size of airplane, we see opportunities in China, since they have that new rule, the 90-seat rule, that where any startup airline in China, they have to start with an airplane with less than 90 seats until they reach the number of 25 airplanes in their fleet. So, and also in the US, since we have the scope clause here that we limit the number of seats to 76 today. In terms of, it's 45% we see for replacement and 55% for growth. Not forecasted, predicted now. Now, this chart, we have in the lower part all the deliveries we have had in North America, starting with the Bandeirantes in 1968. 78, sorry, and Brasilia's 145 family and E-Jet's family. In the upper side is an example here, a hub, like the United Hub in Chicago. They changed in this same period, 40 years. So we can say that there is a Embraer history in delivering airplanes in the United States. Is part of the regional airline development in U.S. history. The size of the hub today is 4 times more than it was 40 years back. We have delivered Bandeirantes, Brazil at 145 and E-Jets in excess of 1,600 units. And if you ask me how many of E-Jets and how many of ERJs, coincidentally, in this chart, up to 2018, the number of E-Jets is the same number of ERJs, 640 airplanes. So coincidentally. So it's another, now I'm going to use an example to show the importance of the regional aviation in this country, and also the participation of regional jets, and also the participation of the Embraer products. This is an example, could be a different example, but this is the hub of United Chicago. Every square is a departure or an arrival. And what is in blue is a regional jet operation, departure in this case here. And if you consider the share of the departures, regional jet represents 60% of those departures from an important hub in the United States. So the share, in the case of Chicago, is 60%. If you take Houston, 55% of the departures. And as another point to remark is the connecting passengers. So 48% of the connecting passengers in a hub, they fly the first leg on a regional jet. 48% in Chicago, 53% in Houston. So the case of these 3 examples here. Again, another example, if you take an international flight, an overseas flight on a wide body, this is an average number. And the connecting passengers in that flight represent 61%, 61% connecting, 23 local. And among the connecting passengers, 35, they flew the first leg on an Embraer airplane, Embraer jet. And if you have another 2 particular examples here, from Chicago to Frankfurt, 44% they flew first leg on an Embraer E-jet. From Houston to Guarulhos, 42%. So this just highlights the importance of the regional aviation in this country, and how is the participation of the Embraer products supporting this operation, the operation of the regional jets for partners in the US. Since I talk about the regional jets, the backbone of the regional jets in the US is the 175. And in terms of deliveries, in terms of orders, we have the 175. Since 2013, it has a market share of 85%. So 85% of the orders since 2013 on this category, on the segment from 70 to 90 seats, was to the 175. It's compared to the direct competitor, the CRJ 900. So 85% in US, and if you take a global number, it's 74% in favor of the 175 against its direct competitor, the CRJ 900. Now, other examples with application of the 175. Here is a material from a presentation from Alaska, where they were presenting highlighting their relevance in California, the West Coast, and they were comparing 2018 against 2017, and they had here listed 27 new markets they opened in California. And from those 27 new markets, we have for each one of the markets, and the frequencies are there, what was the participation of the 175. So from 27 markets, 16 markets were open out of California using the 175. So 60% of those markets were on the 175. So it's another example, and now focus on the 175. A second example, and I like this one because this is an airport north of Seattle, Penn Field. It was opened recently for regional aviation. And Alaska Horizons operates the 175 in Penn Field on behalf of Alaska. So they Alaska announced at the beginning of the year, they were going to add 18 frequencies to 8 different locations. As of today, they have 9 locations because they have added Spokane to that city map, to that road map. So all those flights are on the 175. And also to remember that United is also flying out of Painfield. SkyWest is operating for United on the 175, and if United flies from Everett to Denver and to San Francisco. So the important example, recent airport that was open to regional aviation, and 100% of the departures are on Embraer 175 airplane. Okay, now moving to shifting gears to the E-Jets program. You may have seen this chart before, where we show that now we're going to have 3 members in the family. We have changed the size of the 195. The main idea was to have a more balanced distribution in terms of capacity from the 20% apart here from the 190, 175, and 195. We are increasing the range on the 190 and 195 by 450 nautical miles. 175 remains at the same range, about the same size, and we are stretching the 195. One of the main objectives in designing the E2, the criteria was to have an airplane with a low operating cost. So we are designing the airplane for lower fuel burn and lower maintenance costs. So in the end, more efficient airplane. And the range, as I mentioned, was increased by 400 nautical miles here and there on the 195. So talking about a more efficient airplane, the idea is to have this airplane complementing the narrow body operation, the family of airplanes. And that's one of the points in stressing the 195. So if there are more seats on the 195, we can have similar unit cost when you compare the 195 seat cost with the narrow body. And we can see here that the family fits very well when you say that it can complement the narrow body operation. There is no overlap in seats, in capacity, between the E-Jet E2 and a narrow body family. What's not 100% true when you check that we see the 820 against the Airbus family. The 300 is basically the same size of the 319 and 320. It's a new airplane. It's way beyond just a re-engine airplane, the E2. I'm not going to explain all the details on the change, but I'm going to mention that I'm going to mention about that this airplane was designed around the fly-by-wire system. We had our first fly-by-wire experience with the E-Jet E1, but between the E1 and the E2, we went through 5 different developments. And we had 3 more opportunities to work with fly-by-wire, flight control, fly-by-wire systems. So this is our 4th generation fly-by-wire. It's a full fly-by-wire, for us it's a 4th generation. So we had basically we use the same core of engineers on all these developments, and they had the opportunity to gain experience and be able to make the best selection in terms of choosing the latest technology that should be applied on a new development, on a new airplane. So when I say that it was developed around the fly-by-wire system, it's because you can have fly-by-wire flight control system on any conventional airplane. But it's different when you design the airplane with fly-by-wire in mind. So you can benefit from the high-level functions on the fly-by-wire system, it happens on the E2 family. On the 192, on this family, we were able to move the wing up forward. And with that, we can have a smaller horizontal empennage, and with that, less air, less drag, and more fuel-efficient airplane. We have the doors on the landing gears, so they are covered now, so that also translates in less fuel burn, less drag and less fuel burn. And it's a new wing. We have 3 different wings for the 3 members in the family. Some OEM, they decide to have a common wing, and when that happens, you have to optimize the wing for a certain model. In our case, we decide not to compromise any of the models, so we have a dedicated wing span, dedicated wing area for each of the models, and so don't compromise the performance and the efficiency of each one of the members in the family. The result is here. This is a comparison of fuel burn E2 against the current generation, the E1. So we are 17% better fuel burn in the case of the 190, This is on a per seat base, 25% in the case of the 195 E2 against 195 E1, 16% in the case of the 175. And also, there is the final results after certification of the airplane is better than what was predicted originally. Interior, it's a new interior, it's a modular interior, it's a new concept. And also here on the E2, Embraer is the integrator. In the previous development, the E1, the integration was with the supplier. So this gives us more flexibility and lower maintenance costs, ease of reconfiguration, and it's very important for the source, since they have to move airplanes between different regions and different customers. So it also helps in terms of maintenance cost. The bins are larger. In the E2, on the E2, each passenger can accommodate his luggage in the overhead bin wheels first. So that means each passenger can have its own luggage on the overhead bin. So wheels first capable overhead bin. So that's an important aspect of the new interior of the A2. And also the fact that it's segmented, so it's easy for retrofitting, for changing configuration of the airplane. And what I want to highlight here is that on the A2 we are offering a second option for the first class cabin. This is the traditional 2-in-1 on the E-Jets, first class. So on the A2 we have the second option we call staggered layout, which is here. It's the same, you can have the same number of seats as in the original configuration, but here you can have up to 51 inches of seat pitch. So it's an option for the airline, and there are some additional benefits here, because in this solution here, the overhead bin is the same all the way in the cabin. In this configuration, we have a different overhead bin here in the side here. Here's the same. The seat tracks also are the same. So for the sort that they have to move airplanes from different regions, if they have to work on the reconfiguration of the airplane, it's going to be much easier here on this staggered seat configuration. So this is a picture of the staggered seat. It's an option. The cabin. We are moving from 5 screen to 4 screen, but we are offering 40% more screen area on the cabin of the E-Jet E2. But the most important information here is that there is a high level of commonality between E1 and E2 cockpit. So an airline that operates the E1, they don't have to send pilots to a full flight simulator session in order to transition them from E1 to E2. And the training required for a pilot to move from E1 to E2 is just 2.5 days, only that. So this is a plus. It means a lot of reduction in cost for airline that's going to operate both airplanes. This is the timeline. 190 was certified in 2018. We flew this airplane first time in the first prototype in 2016, beginning of the year. And it was certified and delivered in April 2018. We have 2 operators on the 190 today, 8 airplanes in operation, and the results in terms of schedulability is basically what was predicted. We are now at 98.9, almost 99%, which is a very important figure for an airplane that's only 1 year in operation. 195 was certified recently, triple certification by FAA, EASA, and ANAC. First delivery will be still this year to Azul Airlines in Brazil. Yeah, the launch cluster for the 195 E2. And the results for the 190 and 195 E2, they are better than what was predicted in terms of interior noise, exterior noise, fuel burn, maintenance cost. Important to mention, the predicted interval for the maintenance was, the basic checks was 8,500 flight hours, and we end up approving 10,000 fly hours for the intervals for basic check on the E2. And in here, overhaul interval flight cycles in years is also higher than what was target. And training, initially we thought would be in 3 days, and now it's confirmed 3.5 days for transitioning pilots from the E1 to the E2. And the 175, the first prototype is going to fly this year, and certification of the 175 is scheduled for 2021. This is a picture of the fuselage of the first prototype of the 175. And we have 9 airline customers for the E-Jet C2. We have also lessors. In addition to airlines, we have also lessors. 195 E2, Azul Airlines, the launch customer, and Binter, they will receive their first airplane this year. We'll have 4 new customers taking delivery of the E2 this year. 2 for the 195, and also Helvetic in Switzerland, and Kiribati for the 190. 2 new customers for the 195, 2 for the 190. Helvetic is an interesting example because they are E1 operator that started operation just 3 years ago, and they are now transitioned to the E2. Okay, as Charlie mentioned, we are celebrating Embraer's turn 50. Was founded in 1969, and the first offices in Embraer office in US was opened in 1979, right? So 40 years of presence in the United States. And next I will have a video to show you. Just a few minutes to shift to the video. And you see at the beginning of the video 2 kids, and there is a relation between the video and the history of the Embraer Foundation. The 2 kids in the video, there are some association with the reality of the Embraer Foundation, the founders of Embraer.
Remember when we were observers, looking up to the sky, and then you feel that call from within. Suddenly, our dream becomes our journey.
Oh, sorry, I don't think I started from the beginning. Just one. Okay. Quick fix.
Remember when we were observers, looking up to the sky, and then you feel that call from within. Suddenly, our dream becomes our journey. And you keep saying, this is what I want to do. It's hard to keep that spirit alive. But as soon as you discover you owe it to the world, you find your way through. Ready for takeoff. Up there, everything is grand and real, and you are part of a higher journey. fueled by challenges, guided by dreams.
So when those kids were dreaming about creating or developing airplanes in Brazil, in those days Brazil was even not capable to build bikes at that time. All right. So I think Charlie mentioned at the beginning, this is the Lion Tech, the prototype, the second prototype of the 195-2. You have this airplane in a demo here in the US, beginning of October.
It is October that's going on. The tour is in October.
October
yes.
starts on the 3rd, and then we finish on the 15th, which is that media day I was discussing. 9th to the 11th in Las Vegas. You can make that. Try and make the media day in Fort Lauderdale though, because yeah, the event that we're having that day is pretty special. So we'll take your questions now if you have any.
Where do you see the best prospects for marketing the 195? It seems like that might be, it's not a usual jet, is it? Or what do you classify?
No, it's a mainline airplane for sure. And honestly, I think it's gonna be our best-selling airplane at the end of the day. You know, it's got great range. We increased the range not long ago, 2,600 nautical. The economics are excellent. It far outperforms the A220, whether it's the 100 or 300. Again, I expect that the sales will come. I mean, obviously, they're not here yet in North America, but I can tell you we're working around the clock to make that happen.
What's the biggest hurdle you have to clear in North America?
For the 175, clearly scope, right? And an excellent airplane with excellent performance, but we don't honestly expect in this round of negotiations scope to change, but we think it'll come. So initially, we expect the 175-E2 to sell outside of North America. We are touching base with the guys that don't have scope to see if we can get any of those to move, but you know, most of them respect, even though they don't have it written in their contracts, they respect what's out there.
Where outside the United States do you see the best market for the 175-E2?
Well, I focus mainly in North America, but I think Europe could use the airplane, and Asia.
So Mitsubishi has adjusted their strategies based on belief that scope's not going to change. Is Embraer doing anything with the 175-2 to modify it to fit within scope restrictions if they don't change in the US?
Well, I think until scope changes, we'll continue to sell the 175 in various forms. You know, everything's on the table right now. We're not going to lose business because we don't have a product available. So we'll figure it out. But you know, the airlines are getting very creative right now. You know, they're moving CRJ 700s to 50-seaters. They're moving, you know, well, I know 900s are being offered at 65 seats. I suspect the same thing will happen with 170s that are out there. They'll be moved around to make room for new airplanes. There's just a lot going on, but I don't see us giving up any of the market because we don't have a scope compliant E2 right now. Right? I think we'll adjust it with the E1 until there is scope relief. I guess is the bottom line.
Do you see more orders for the
No, actually, it's robust right now, you know. I don't have anything that I can tell you today, but there's a lot of opportunities. I'm still excited about it. The guys are running in 18 different directions, because there's just a lot of activity. You know, the second part of that is you have to close it. But it's nice having Bombardier out of the game. But we do know that Mitsubishi's right around the corner. But you know, we have a history of delivering airplanes on time. You know,
On budget and on spec.
yeah, on budget, on spec. They don't. You know, I don't mean that as a slam. You know, I think at the end of the day, the Japanese are great manufacturers. But this is a new area for them. They haven't built an airplane in 50 years. So they've had their challenges, but I think they'll overcome them and they'll be formidable at some point, just not like that.
Yeah, and this mechanism of changing the airplane, basically, you have to reduce the range of the airplane, right?
Right.
And
that's
just the weight.
Yeah,
And
right.
one thing to-
That's what they're
to-
doing with the CRJ 700 and the 550 conversion. They're reducing the weight and the range in order to meet this.
Same with the MRJ, right?
Right.
And two things that I'm sure the North American police they don't have a preference for is TP and jets with short range. The benefit of the jet is the range, the longer range.
We'll certainly play upon the fact that a lot of our customers have huge fleets of 175s, right? So much easier to add more 175s than it would be to add an aircraft with a different engine need at this point, right? The airplanes are all relatively young. They're all performing well. People seem to love the aircraft. The passenger experience is excellent. And as Tobias was showing you, I mean, it's very relevant. You know, from my discussions with the different airlines, they would like to get more, but the scope is holding them back. But there may be other ways to get around that.
No, John had a question.
It's-
More of a philosophical question, to some extent. You know, you're now, you know, better part of a decade into from the decision to go ahead with the E2, E2, and that process to where you are now for delivering the E195 next week. I'm curious your thoughts on the differences between selling regional jets and selling small single-aisle airliners, and your experience with that, and how that has affected Embraer's approach to selling its products, and how are those different? How are those similar from where you sit?
Well, it's selling to the main line versus the regionals, which is a different world. They have different cost structures. The big argument at the main line is the complexity argument, the cost of complexity of adding a new fleet type. You know, can a small narrow body overcome that? And that's our job in sales, to convince them that we can overcome that. You know, because from an efficiency standpoint, I mean, there are the A220s being sold. We're much more efficient than the A220. So at the end of the day, I think we're going to have a good run in North America. We just got to get the first couple airplanes in.
Do you think it requires a different type of? I mean, I asked in the context of Mitsubishi trying to sell a regional jet in the U.S. and versus a larger aircraft that wasn't scope compliant, that was marketed more globally. But in terms of that shift, the mindset shift about what it takes to sell either small airplanes or even, you know, even with the C-Series, when it was the C-Series, selling a small single aisle versus, again, the experience with what Bombardier had selling primarily regional jets. And whether or not those the focus of each different marketplace isn't necessarily suited for whether it's the same company or even just ultimately the same approach.
If I understand, it's more like the cultural aspect of selling to mainline and selling to regionals.
Or just a sales and marketing approach to one versus the other.
Well, again, selling to mainline is completely different. I mean, they have a lot more resources, to go a lot deeper, into the aircraft. The regionals basically, they do what the mainline wants them to do, right? Of course, they still select the airplane, but the 175, I think, has just proven itself to be stellar in all respects. So, the regional, they can't go wrong by buying the 175, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. It's a home run, it's also a market where we've known these customers for many, many years, whereas the main line, although we visit them, there's high turnover at the main line. So it is a different world. I just think that at the end of the day, we will sell to the main line, we will convince them of the complexity argument. They'll see the airplane. I think some of them actually want to wait and see how the airplane does in service. I would too. It has a great reliability right now in the places that it's at. It's small, right? There's a small number of airplanes out there, but the reliability is outstanding. I think that will help convince them. I think we'll, again, convince them on the complexity argument. And versus the alternative, if they are thinking about the small narrow body, there's no question that ours is more efficient. I'm not sure if that answered your question or not.
And on the comfort side, there is no degradation. E-jets, in fact, in reality, airlines that operates E-jets and when they have those survey with their customers, their passengers, the E-jets are rated better than the narrow body operator in terms of comfort, even for the passengers. We have had access to those results, and it shows always the E-jets better rated than the narrow bodies.
Scott had a question.
Kind of following up a little bit what John had to say, but to put it in a different context. You see the A220 now coming into mainline operations. Do you think that that Embraer's opportunity, whether this year or next year or 5 years down the road, which is a clever way of getting around the Boeing question, do you think that the market potential is actually in upgauging to the 195 to the main lines, setting aside the complexity issues that we know exist? Where do you really see the future market potential as a total family sales?
Are you talking about just the main line in general?
It's, I guess another way of asking the question is, do you see more market potential in the 195 E2 in the United States if you can break over that mainline barrier than if you just were sticking with the 175 E2 in the hope of scope relief?
Absolutely. I think we do have to get over the hurdle of getting the first few airplanes in, but I think the 195 E2 will be a much bigger success than the 175 at the end of the day.
We haven't talked about the 190. Where do you see the 190 kind of fitting in? That's, the middle family member, but you really haven't talked much about the potential of the 190 E2.
Well, I think the 195 kind of leads the way, and then you'll also probably have markets that don't require that gauge. So that's where the 190 would come in, I believe. It's more of the 195 getting in the door, and then the 190 being, common, as Tobias showed you, all AAA commonality in the family for the pilot training, a very common aircraft in almost all respects. But I don't think it's the 190 that gets you in the door. I think it's the 195. I can tell you that's where the interest has been so far, is on the 195, less so on the 190.
Is that a global statement or is that a US statement?
Only North America. Yeah.
That's an interesting statement. North America has shown more interest in the 195. I don't suppose you care to name names.
No, but it's pretty consistent.
But if that's with mainlines, if scope did change, are you confident that there would be a roll up from E1s to E2s quite quickly with your current customer base in North America?
Well, they're not, I mean, the mainline airplanes, they're not really bicycle, right, so.
No,
You're talking about the 175?
You said, yeah, with the 175, sorry.
Change within just the.
I think it would happen gradually because, the fleets are so large out there, SkyWest and Republic. I think that they would try and stay with the 175 for a little while longer, but ultimately the benefits of the 175 E2 are pretty good. Especially if fuel starts to go up, right? That's where it really shines. Of course, maintenance costs too. It's excellent. It's a little better than the 175, but I think ultimately it would people would gravitate towards the 175.
What kind of interest are you seeing from LCCs here in this country toward the 195? You got Spirit, Frontier, even Southwest. What kind of interest are you seeing from them?
We've talked to pretty much all of them.
Yeah,
And,
the dilemma they have is to move from a single fleet operation to a dual fleet.
Yeah,
But the
that's-
airplane is always, they recognize the quality of the airplane, the efficiency.
I mean, they're
The contribution.
successful because they have formulas that work, right? And as Southwest has told us many times, as long as the formula continues to work, we're not going to change it. So that's a tough nut to crack, but they're constantly touching base with us to see what improvements we've made to the airplane. So we're in touch with most of them.
Any likelihood that there might be somebody who follows Mr. Nealman and just builds an airline around the 195 E2 rather than around the A220?
Yeah, obviously we'd love that, but I don't have anything to do with today.
How about tomorrow? We're still there tomorrow.
I wish, yeah.
Any more questions? All right, well, thank you all for.
Can I just get a check on the options that you had available? I missed the number that you gave. I got all the deliveries and firm orders. What was your options number that you still have available?
It is 445.
445.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you all for coming. Please come visit the booth. We also hope you'll be able to join us in Fort Lauderdale for Media Day, as Charlie mentioned, on October 15th. Expect to hear from us about that. And if you need a media kit with this presentation, of course, we have that on USBs. But enjoy the RAA.